So I'm Chris Haighton from ShopDirect, Head of Outbound Logistics. So I'm responsible for all our carrier relationships and the relationships with our dropship suppliers. In light of the end of the last discussion there, which was about Cambridge Analytics, I guess I'm fortunate to be in the studio next door to Facebook. So hopefully the difficult questions are through there and not in here. And really, I've got quite a gentle, quite an easy subject, haven't I? Tracking. When I was asked to do this, obviously readily accepted, because tracking is something that's been part of my life in the industry. So I've really grown up with it. When I started working in a logistics depot 27, 28 years ago, tracking was something special. Tracking was something that we gave just to the high-value parcels. And it's evolved throughout my working career alongside me. It's something that I've grown up with, and it's very important to me. But more important than that, it's something that's really important to the customer. So I'll give you my view, and I guess ShopDirect's view of philosophy about tracking, what it's about, where it's going, and what we as ShopDirect are doing. And I'm going to use a very broad definition of tracking. So tracking for me is not just about something that says the parcel's arrived at the depot or been delivered. It's about everything we do to keep the customer informed of what's going on about the flight of their parcel from the point they place an order to the point that it's delivered. I'll start with a little bit of who are ShopDirect, and then I'm going to talk about the evolution of tracking as I see it, why tracking is important, a little bit about what I see the customer wants and needs are, and then talk you through ShopDirect's approach to tracking. And I'm happy to be able to deliver a little bit of breaking news, so if you hang on till the end, got some topical stuff for you. ShopDirect, who are we? You probably know. We're a £1.93 billion turnover business. We're a digital department store with brands including very.co.uk and Littlewoods. But you may also be familiar with our catalogue heritage. We come from a stores and catalogue background, and we've been through a massive transformation over the last 10 years. We've moved away from a business that really played in the physical space to being the UK's second largest pure-play online retailer. For only 5 years ago, 72% of our sales came from a catalogue. Now we have no catalogues at all. And we've transformed so quickly into the digital space that actually over 2/3 of our sales come from mobile devices. So everything we do is designed with the customer and with digital and mobile in mind. So before I carry on to the future, let me just talk about the past for a moment. Let's talk about the bad old days. And one thing I've noticed about today is there's lots of young people at this conference, but I noticed a few faces in the audience that might be maybe as old as I am. So is there anybody who recognises this guy? Anyone know who this is? Roy of the Rovers, absolutely. That's Roy Race, Roy of the Rovers. And back in 1982, so he was big in football comics. Back in 1982, you could buy yourself a pair of super-duper Roy of the Rovers football boots. Fantastic. And how did you buy those? Well, you clipped out a coupon from the back of a magazine, and you added a postal order. You can see this one's actually quite a modern coupon because he could put a credit card number on as well. And what happened after that? Well, he posted it off, and he didn't hear anything. And there's a phrase that's very familiar to those of us of a certain age. Please allow 28 days for delivery. What's this, 30-odd years ago? That was standard. You sent something away, and 28 days later you got a delivery. No tracking, no visibility. How quickly we've moved on as an industry. The expectation now is 1 day or 2 days for delivery and full visibility. And yet, many retailers still don't offer up tracking on their websites. Far too many retailers are happy just to hand a parcel over to a carrier, leave them to get on with it, deliver whatever customer experience the carrier likes. Excuse me, I've just realised I haven't got my glasses on, which is great until you try and start to read something. So most carriers do offer a great experience, we'll be honest. But think about it from the customer perspective. Price and convenience are always a consideration, when you're shopping. But for many consumers, where they shop, it's actually driven by the brand experience and the trust they have in the retailer. To build that trust, quality and experience have to be consistent throughout the journey. Many retailers talk about building a relationship with a customer, but all they're trying to do is sell something. And they finish that relationship at the point the customer clicks checkout. I believe firmly that retailers should be maintaining that relationship all the way through to delivery and beyond. One of the ways you do that is through tracking. And I see that over my career, tracking's evolved. It's gone from looking at where the parcel was, which was the traditional way of describing tracking, to looking at where the parcel is, and increasingly these days to where the parcel will be. And that's in answer to 3 customer questions. When I first started working, the typical customer question after 28 days was, what happened to my delivery? Wasn't I going to get a delivery? And tracking will tell you what happened to that delivery. It won't tell you where it is now, but it'll tell you where it was. The question gradually evolved as lead times improved and customer expectation grew to, is it still coming? Where is my delivery? And increasingly now, the customer expectation is that you'll get a parcel to that customer where and when they want it. And that expectation, that increasing customer demand, is being driven by what I call the e-com emotional roller coaster. So if you look at an e-com journey, a standard e-com journey, browse, find, buy, wait a little bit, receive your parcel, that drives a wave of conflicting emotions amongst the customer. If you look at it in terms of the customer's relationship with your brand, hopefully they're going to start off reasonably happy, reasonably positive about your brand. Well, after all, they've come to your website to buy something, haven't they? And as they look through your website and look at all that great product you've bought and the fantastic way you've curated it and the beautiful artwork of your marketing, they like your website even more. And they get quite excited and they find a product. And if you're really lucky, they'll click on the checkout button and they'll buy the item. But then what happens? The doubts start to set in. Is the item still coming? Will it arrive on time? How will I know what day it'll turn up? Will I need to sign for it? If I don't need to sign for it, where are they going to leave the parcel? What happens if I nip out for 5 minutes? And for God's sake, they're not going to leave one of those cards, are they? Oh, and if they do, what am I going to have to do to get that parcel collected? So the customer wants and needs throughout this journey are twofold. Really, from the point the order's placed, you need to be reassuring the customer. They need that reassurance that the parcel is still coming. And that's particularly true of longer lead times. So the vast majority of what we dispatch in ShopDirect is clothing and footwear on pretty much a next-day basis. But we're a department store. We sell sofas that are built to order, and they're on a 6-week lead time. What you can't do is have customers coming back to your website every day for 6 weeks and seeing the same tracking screen with no progression. So that reassurance is dramatically more important the longer the lead time. And then the closer you get to the delivery, the more the customer wants to be in control. The more you have to give the customer the ability to influence the flight of that parcel so that they can coincide with the parcel, the right time, the right place. And why is that important as a retailer? Why can't you just let the carrier get on with it? Well, a recent survey asked customers, who would you contact to resolve your delivery query? What did they say? 78% of them said they would go straight to the retailer. Their contracts with you, their relationships with you as a retailer, why would they go to the carrier? So as retailers, we really have to own the journey, start to finish. It doesn't stop at checkout. How do we do that? The first way to do it is set expectation. The journey begins at checkout. That's where you set the carrier up for success. Capturing the right information, not just the right address, mobile contact details, email details, safe place information, capturing it, validating it is hugely important in the success of the delivery. But also making the right delivery promise, setting the right expectation about timescale. How long is it going to take to process and dispatch your parcel? Geographically, where does the customer live? Does the promise differ for Aberdeen or for Shetland? Do you adjust for the weather? Where's the weather? Well, we do all of these things, and we measure ourselves rigorously against our delivery, against that promise, because that's the promise we've given to the customer, and we don't want to let her down. Second thing you do is demonstrate activity. You have to show that that parcel is moving towards the customer, and particularly true, as I say, of the 6-week lead time sofa. That's why we have what we call keep warm comms. We send to customers every week as part of that journey. We've still got your order, we're still processing it, we're still expecting to deliver it on this day. That keeps the customer engaged, and it stops the customer ringing us up to find out where it is. And equally, you have to be proactive. So there's a proactive keep warm comms, but also you've got to proactively communicate to the customer at all the important stages of the delivery journey. That's as important, if not more important, than presenting the tracking. And particularly, you have to proactively communicate to the customer where there's an issue and where there's a call to action. Address query is a really good example. If the driver's struggling to find your address, you have to contact the customer to get some information to help them out. And finally, and increasingly importantly, you have to put the customer in control. All of those options, those in-flight options, redelivery, change of date, they're massively important to the customer. And so we've seen tracking evolve over the years, driven by that accelerating customer demand. Where the parcel was started with tracking events in the DC and in the carrier's hubs. In the late 90s, drivers started to get handheld terminals out on the road, and you got tracking events on the road and delivery tracks in real time. And as those terminals evolved, we got signatures, photos of where the delivery's been made, and GPS geocodes. All really useful, all absorbed by retailers in recent years, but all just telling you where the parcel was. We then built on that. Proactive communications. Some carriers now offer parcel countdown and real-time vehicle tracking. That's telling you where the parcel is. Really useful. And increasingly these days, we've got time windows, 1-hour time slots, and we've got that in-flight redirection to collection points, to safe place, to neighbour. We've got rearrange the date. And I think probably the next step, deliver to where I am now. Deliver to my mobile. That can't be far away. And that's all fantastically high-tech, but let's not forget the low-tech solutions either. Fashion retailers like us really, really value the neighbourhood courier delivery that the likes of Hermes and Yodel offer. And customers love it, because you've got someone in your neighbourhood who knows you, who knows when you're going to be in, who knows where you like your parcels left in your safe place. Someone you can build a relationship with, and all you need for that relationship is the courier's phone number so you can drop them a text. So provision of that courier phone number is a hugely important part of tracking. Now, carriers do a really good job of these, but you'll see that, particularly in the column on the left, retailers have absorbed those onto their websites. We certainly have. And as each step gets delivered by carriers and absorbed by retailers, there's an increasing expectation and demand from consumers for the next step. And personally, as a retailer, I don't want to rely on carriers to provide all this. I want to provide it to my customers myself. So just to see how that might turn into action, let me show you a journey that we built with a carrier a few years ago. This is an Arrow Excel journey. So Arrow Excel built a diary booking system that allowed them to plan their deliveries days in advance. We got them to build as an API so we could put that into our checkout. As you can see there, gives a customer a choice of many days in the future in which they can arrange to stay in, because you usually need to stay in for a 2-man delivery. And they can have some certainty that the delivery is going to be made on that date. But offering that booking on its own is of very little value unless the journey towards that booking is fully considered. So we built a consistent, clear and timely journey, comms journey with Arrow, built on SMS and email. It's joined up, so we considered all of the communications as part of a single journey, whether sent from the retailer, ShopDirect, prior to dispatch, or from dispatched by the carrier all the way through to delivery. And these comms do a great job of setting the customer expectation around delivery. With this, you can see there's time slots in there, delivery countdown. They offer a map so you can track the vehicle in real time. I've had this in place for a couple of years now. We've had the diary booking in place for slightly longer, and it offers a great customer experience, and it's delivered superb results. We've seen a 69% reduction in carded deliveries. We've seen a 38% increase in conversion rate at checkout by offering customers the ability to select a delivery date. This was groundbreaking a few years ago, but it's built fundamentally on handing that journey over to the carrier at the point of dispatch. And crucially for me, it pushes the customer out to a carrier website, doesn't bring them back to mine. But it delivers a great journey for the customer. And what are the benefits it delivers? Well, the first benefit it delivers is sales protection. So clearly, if you can land a delivery with the customer first time or second time, they're more likely to keep the item. If you can't land the delivery with a customer, if the journey just proves too damn difficult, that item is going to come back. You spent all the money on delivery and you've lost the sale. So sales protection is a massive driver in this. But equally, so is customer ease. Again, as retailers, we spend a lot of time agonizing about removing friction on our websites and removing friction in checkout. But you know what? That's a relatively friction-free process already. Most of the friction, most of the aggravations in the physical end of this, in the delivery. So as retailers, we should be focusing on taking the friction out of that process as well. And if you take the friction out of the process and the customer thinks it's a great process, you'll keep that customer. And we all know that it's far cheaper to retain a customer and far easier to retain a customer than it is to recruit a new one. And sure, there's some cost avoidance as well. That 69% reduction in carded rate results in a benefit to the carrier and a benefit to the retailer. And you've got happy customers. Happy customers promote your brand. Happy customers recommend your brand. And happy customers are customers that you have a relationship with who will come back to your brand and shop again. So crucially, all these benefits, almost all of them accrue to the retailer. So retailers should be putting the majority of the effort in to maintain the customer relationship and deliver a great experience. We should be putting our arms around the process, not handing off to carriers. In fact, we should actively be rejecting carriers and CMS providers who don't enable us to put our arms around the process end to end. In a typical week for ShopDirect, we get over 700,000 views of that tracking page. That's on average about 2 per parcel we dispatch. A couple of really telling stats for me. About a third of those journeys end on the tracking page. So the customers come on, let's see where my parcel is. All right, I can see where it is, I'm happy with that. End of, I'm going to go somewhere else. But the other 2/3 of those journeys then move on to somewhere else on our website. So that's a customer who's checked the progress of their parcel and has then gone on to browse our website and hopefully to buy something else. So I think that's really telling. The other telling stat, and one that I'm quite proud of, is that of those 700,000 views of the tracking page, only 1% then result in a customer contact. So 99% of the time, we are answering the customer's query on that tracking page. I'm not happy about the 1%, but 99 is pretty good. And if I take a view from the carrier perspective, so Yodel, as part of their monthly pack they provide to us and all clients, offer a comparison between my parcels and the parcels from the rest of their clients. And because we've paid such attention to the integration at checkout, the capture of data at checkout, the handshake with Yodel, and the tracking we provide, you can see that on pretty much every measure, we do significantly better than most other Yodel customers. Now, yes, we're in group with Yodel, but we don't get any special favours. We have a commercial relationship with them. We don't have separate vans. We don't have separate services. We are on the same van, on the same services as everybody else, but with significantly better results. And the crucial one for me is that last one there. So when Yodel asks a number of questions at their post-delivery survey, were you happy with being kept informed about your journey? We score 6% higher than everybody else. So let me talk you through a little bit about the evolution of ShopDirect's thinking on tracking. We'll start with the tracking events that have been around for a long while, the on-the-road tracking events and the in-depot tracking events. We've spent a lot of time and effort thinking about how we display those events best for the customer. And before I move on to these slides, I'm going to say I can't guarantee that what I show you here is what you'd see if you shopped on our website, because we are constantly experimenting with the way we display this stuff. And there's a number of experimentation pieces ongoing at the moment. So you may get something slightly different. In particular, this has got a pink hue to it. The standard tracking screen's got a slightly green hue to it, so you'll know which one you're on. But this is our new, cleaner, normalised tracking screen. You can see that it's a really clean display. It's designed for mobile. And this is built on the fly, both from carrier tracking we've received, but also from internal DC status updates and from updates from our dropship suppliers. We've normalised it into customer-facing language. We've taken all of the industry jargon out. And we've used all the relevant details, including, and I think rather bravely, the driver comments. So if a driver's allowed to type in free text about, let's say, where he's left the parcel, we'll serve that up to the customer. We've removed irrelevant location details. So you can see some of these tracks have a location against them because we feel it's relevant, and some of them don't. Behind the scenes, every track has a location against it. So you can see down the bottom there, the parcel's been received at Middleton. That's my local depot. It's value to me to know that the parcel's been received at Middleton and not, say, Glasgow. On the other hand, now I know it's in Middleton. There's not much point telling me it's been loaded onto a van in Middleton. Great, I know that. So we don't show that. We also hide the irrelevant tracks to make it really simple and clear. There's no point a customer knowing, or no point telling a customer that the parcel's moved from one cage to another cage in a delivery depot. So we really try to reduce and eliminate any erroneous tracks where we can, but we can't always do that. There's another bit I'd point out, a little bit I'm very proud of because I was part of delivering this, but you can see that if we get to the end of this and the customer is one of those 1% who can't answer their query on this page, we don't make them break channel. There's a specialist team sitting behind that live chat button who can deal with the delivery queries. But that's not enough, because we don't want to make a customer read through all those tracks to see where a parcel's been. We want to simplify it even more. So we overlay at the top of the page a contextual call to action. In this case, no action required, the parcel's been delivered. One of the changes we've made is we've put a progress bar with 6 states in it. That's a move on from our previous three blocks I called them. So order process, dispatched and delivered. We're on to 6 states now, just to show progress, continue to show that progress for the customer. But we've actually removed quite a lot of information from this page. Why replicate information that the customer's already seen on the preceding page? So we've taken away price, delivery address, and item description. But you'll see there's a little visual callback there. You know, we've left the trainer on there as a small picture just so the customer knows which item they're chasing up. And that's delivered some massive benefit for us in terms of reducing where is my order calls. But we don't want to stop there. As I say, we really want to own the journey end to end. So here's the breaking news. If I go back to that evolution of tracking, there's a load of stuff that we don't currently deliver to the customer. We're only delivering the stuff on the left-hand side. So how are we going to deliver proactive comms and all that other good stuff to the customer from our website? Well, we've done this in conjunction with our carriers. So the first thing is those proactive comms. Bingo. So those proactive comms, as you can see on the left, hide that one for a minute. As you can see on the left, there's already an element of branding in the comms we get from our carriers. So that text we got on the far left appears to come from Very, even though it comes from Yodel. That's not good enough for me, because it's Yodel branded. It takes customers to the Yodel website. We don't want that. So by the end of next week, the Yodel texts and the Yodel emails will be ShopDirect branded and pointing at our websites. And in fact, Yodel have enabled ShopDirect's tone of voice as well. So the language will not be Yodel's language, it will be ShopDirect's language, differentiated by brand. That's massively important to us in extending that reach, in putting our arms around that whole process for the customer. But we've done more than that as well. Through using the Yodel API, we've started to take that information that lots of carriers provide, and we're putting that in our website. So here's the mobile website. It might not be immediately obvious on the left-hand side, but from the API, we're now taking the latest delivery date from the carrier and feeding that back to the customer. And once the carrier has given the parcel to the person who's going to be delivering it, then we can really start to rock and roll. That middle one, they've given it to the courier. So we're providing the customer with a courier's name and mobile number. And on the far one, it's out with a delivery driver. And you can see we're giving the customer not only a time slot, but also a parcel countdown and a map. Not terribly exciting, you might say. Now, lots of carriers do this. Well, they do. But not many retailers do. In fact, we may be the first one. Amazon have got some of this. Some of the supermarkets do through their own delivery businesses. But actually, we may be the first retailer to do this through a third party. And whether we are or not doesn't really matter. What does matter is that this will keep customers coming back to our websites and our app, and that can only be good for our business. So what next? Well, I'm not going to stop here because I haven't answered that last question yet. So I've built the app with Yodel. We're already showing that on our website. I've got other carriers. I'm going to start incorporating APIs from other carriers into that website. Step 1. Step 2, functionality. At the moment, if the customer wants to redirect that parcel, they have to go to my carrier. I want to build on that API, and I want to put that functionality in my website so the customer never has to leave. This will keep ShopDirect at the cutting edge of the customer journey, and it will be good for our business because the customer never ever has to go anywhere else. So conclusion, tracking's evolved massively in the 27 years I've been in this industry, in line with increasing customer and retailer expectation. Allow 28 days for delivery? Well, that's pretty much gone forever, or at least it's been relegated to the cheap and cheerful end of the eBay seller scale. Retailers who don't own the tracking journey are going to head the same way because the expectation is being driven by those who do. And expectation drives customer contact. So as well as providing that tracking, you should be aiming to contact the customer before the customer contacts you. Now, carriers can help the retailers out here, as Yodel have helped us out. But most carriers are driven by short-term efficiency, quite rightly. Retailers are driven by long-term customer relationships. So retailers need to step up to the plate to own and design a coherent customer journey from checkout to door. Amazon and the supermarkets are doing it. ShopDirect are doing it. So if you don't start thinking about it now, it'll be too late. Thank you very much.
Got this one on? Good. Chris, thanks. Really insightful again. And I know we're getting towards the sort of end of the day, but we will have some Q&A. That's great. I don't want to be negative. Great presentation, but I still see that potentially as a bit of information overload on the customer. Yeah. How far are we away from just exception reporting?
Yeah.
Where, I go online and place my order. It says it's going to be between 10 and 12 tomorrow morning. That's it. I don't then need to get ping, 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 ping over the next 24 hours. I just want one ping if something's not going to happen, which is the between 10 and 12 delivery tomorrow morning. Is that the next stage of the evolution for you?
I think that absolutely is the next stage of the evolution. I think there's still a need to show progression towards the customer. So it's good enough to say it'll be there between 10 and 12 tomorrow, but actually the customer still needs to feel that, it's been dispatched, or it's been given to the carrier, or the carrier's got it on its van. Because if they don't see that progression, they're likely to ring up and say, is it still coming?
So what you're saying then is this is part of the emotional journey that the customer is on.
Absolutely is.
And the customer's not yet ready to fully embrace what the technology can deliver.
Well, you're right. There's an element of trust in there.
You could deliver exception reporting tomorrow, couldn't you? Really?
Absolutely. Well,
but the customer's not ready for it.
We have the capability to do it, yeah. And I don't think the customer's ready to trust us or the carrier with that either.
It's really interesting. And just before we go to the floor on this, I'm conscious as well that we've got a wide range of sort of retailers with us today, large, medium and small. So what would your advice be? Because not everybody is ShopDirect. And, you know, you made the comment that you're sort of leading the way here, and a lot of a lot of the 3PLs and the delivery companies do this, but not many of the retailers do. So aimed more at the SME end of this e-commerce business, what would your advice be to the smaller players to get onto this?
So there's actually a lot of capability out there in the carrier management system marketplace. You know, most people use carrier management systems these days. Most retailers do. I was gobsmacked actually the other day when I placed an order and I got a confirmation of dispatch that didn't have a barcode and didn't have a tracking reference number in it, and yet it came through a carrier management system. So most carrier management system providers will allow you to drive proactive communications. Most have an API that you can link into your website. It's not difficult to do with the right partners. So even the SMEs can get right all over this.
And I think there's some examples of that out in the hall as well with some of the technology that's here. So find your way around and make it work in your business. Right, we got some questions for Chris from the floor before we sort of wrap up. Yes, gentleman down at the front here, please.
Yeah, hi, my name's Mark Lodge. You're very proud of the fact that you own the customer right up to the point, or you own that customer experience right up to the point where the parcel is delivered. What happens when the parcel is delivered into a local C-store and the customer hasn't picked it up, maybe for a day, a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I didn't get into the detail of that, but we look at, so we've partnered with Collect Plus and also with Royal Mail for local collect, and as part of establishing those partnerships, we've gone through the communications journey there as well. Now at the moment, those partners are reminding the customers at regular intervals if they haven't collected. That's something that we'll be looking at driving into our website and our proactive communications as well. Because you're right, it is crucial the customer collects, and the majority of customers actually collect within the first 24 hours, but there's a tail out to 7 days, 10 days, and a tiny handful who don't collect at all, and that's a loss of sales. So there has to be a really strong customer communications journey that reminds the customer, hey, you still haven't picked it up, you still want it, and ultimately, you want to minimise the number of customers who fail to pick up their parcels.
Thanks. Follow-up question?
So do you get to know if the customer's actually picked it up or not?
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't go with a click and collect provider who didn't give us information about whether or not the customer's collected, when they've collected it, or whether an item's been returned uncollected. And so I'm not share them with you now, but I get stats on how quickly in minutes customers collect parcels after the notification, for example.
Another question? Okay, any more? For any more? Chris, just one more question from me then. You're obviously integrating this across multiple carriers. Is that enabling you to apply this visibility on an international basis? You're fulfilling international orders as well, aren't you?
If you count Republic of Ireland as international, yes, we are, and Channel Islands and Isle of Man, all of which,
you've got customers buying on very.com in the territorial places like Hong Kong and so on, haven't you? How are you handling those?
We closed very.com 5 years ago. Yeah, we're UK and Ireland only. That being said, the same principles apply, and if we ever do go back into international, then it'll be on a fully tracked basis, and again we'll want to put those arms around the customer and make sure that we're we're looking after the entire
But
journey.
in your experience, again, because I know there are some of the e-commerce retailers here that are into transborder and international movements. In your experience, the technology is out there to make that happen. It's about integration of systems.
It was 5
Multiple
years.
carriers, multiple countries.
And multi-carrier systems, absolutely.
It's about APIs.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Good. Anything else from the floor, guys? Well, it looks like we've stunned everyone into silence there, Chris. So let's thank Chris for a great enlightening presentation and sharing his ShopDirect experience.